Let's be honest, it doesn't matter if you have 100 horsepower or 1,000 horsepower. If you don't have tires, you are going nowhere fast as a drifter. That's where Zek Nova comes in. With their broad range of tires available for all horsepower ranges and skill levels, you want to be able to get on board with them to make sure that your drift day is not only fun, but smoky as it should be. From the Super Sport RS, the RS 606, and the Mac Daddy JR 500, Zek Nova has a tire offering to be able to make sure that you get the proper size and compound for your build. Make sure to use promo code TheDirtDrop for 10% off when checking out at their website, www.zeknovaus.com. And make sure to check them out, Facebook and Instagram, ZekNovaUS. And just like that, we are back with another episode of the Dirt Drop Podcast. I am, of course, your host, Chris DeBoard, and my guest today truly needs no introduction, but I'm going to give it to him anyways, just because he has been a part of professional drifting since the inception of Formula Drift US. He also is in the Pro League for Pro 1 in Formula Drift Japan. He is realistically one of the innovators for so many things that has been what is Formula Drift today. And even in grassroots drifting, you can still see him up ripping on the West Coast and abroad. Plus, he is contributing to something really cool that could be a part of the future of drifting. We're going to get into all that, but I need to introduce Mr. Kenshiro Gushi. How are we doing, brother? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, man. That was quite the intro.
I mean, I hate to say it, a lot of people need to understand just that, you were there from day one. I mean, isn't that true?
Yeah, it's true. I haven't missed a single Formula Drift event. I've pretty much done majority of the West Coast drifting events, whether it's something that's pro level or grassroots level. But yeah, that was quite the hype man introduction that I got there.
Well, every story does have an origin, and I know you've got yours. I remember something specific I'll bring up to see if you remember it, but who is Kenshiro Gushi, and how did you get started in the great sport of drift?
Well, before drifting, I was always into cars just because my father was like heavily invested into motorsports and just anything car related. So he worked at a automotive repair shop when I was just a little kid. I mean, even before that. So I was born in Okinawa, Japan. We moved to the States when I was 2. And as far back as I can remember, he was just always tinkering with cars in the garage. At the time, we had a Datsun 510 and a 310 Sunny.
Okay.
And so I remember just wearing, small overalls, trying to help him, carrying tools, wrenches, sockets, or whatever. But he was always into rally racing. So before drifting, I was actually doing a little bit of rally. And I was his co-driver in a lot of the rally stuff. And then if there were no co-drivers allowed, we would always be there to support him. And I'll try to find it, but there's a picture of myself on my mom's shoulders, and we were just like cheering on Dad, racing his Skyline around in Japan. And so before drifting was rally, but then at the time rally was expensive. We were only able to afford like the small local West Coast events. It was California Rally Series, a little bit of Rally America, Rim of the World Rally, a lot of the local West Coast rally events. And sometime around 1999 was when I first saw drifting for the first time. And this was actually before Initial D. It was just a Japanese video company called Video Option, which is the original company that hosted D1 Grand Prix. And they were showing drifting on one of their VHS cassette tapes. I don't know if you guys remember those, but we used to watch TV using tapes. And so I was like, what are they doing? Like, why are they wasting their tires like that? But it looked cool. Like, it just looked so appealing. These kids were doing something that technically cars weren't made to do, but then they were making it look super cool. And the sounds that these cars made through the exhaust and the tire squeal, and then the risks, the dangers of, almost hitting the guardrail or going off course or crashing into each other. It was just so cool. Like I just fell in love with it right away. And then came Initial D, the anime series that was based around real cars. So the Toyota A86, which is an icon to the drifting world, or even automotive culture in general for Japan.
Absolutely.
It's an underpowered four cylinder rear wheel drive. And in the storyline, a lot of you guys know this, but the storyline, the father owns a tofu shop, and because he's so old and lazy to deliver the tofu in the middle of the night, he makes his unlicensed underage son deliver the tofu in the middle of the night, saying that it should be okay because there wouldn't be much traffic through the canyons. It's like 2, 3 in the morning. What's going to happen? So he continues to deliver the tofu through these canyon roads, and as he continues to do so, his driving gets better and better and better, and he starts to push the limits of how late he can leave the house because he wants to get more sleep. So by doing so, he has to rush the delivery, but you can't crush tofu because it's so soft and sensitive. So you have to be very delicate in the driving. So he like masters the art of driving fast through the canyons, drifting through corners without crushing the tofu. And so he becomes like a master driver. But anyhow, um, I was watching the anime with my dad. I'm like, man, that's so cool. He was like, well, you know what? We actually have a Corolla at the shop. Like, and one of my employees knows this place where we can take the car. You can try it and see if you like it. So we went to this dry lake bed in Southern California called El Mirage Dry Lake Bed,
Mhm.
and it's actually where they film a lot of automotive commercials. They do some like straight line dry lake bed racing there. I'm sure some teams test for the what is it, salt flats,
Yeah,
the
Bonneville Salt Flats.
Bonneville salt flats. Yeah, so they do some testing there. It's not as big or smooth, but it's just a great place to keep you out of trouble from the law. And there's a lot of off road vehicles there as well, like two wheels, ATVs. So you just got to make sure you stay out of their way. But off on the sidelines, obviously the main dry lake bed, we're not allowed to destroy the surface. So we kind of kick back to the sidelines around the bushes where no one really uses or utilizes. And I think I was like 11 or 12 at the time when we went.
Jeez.
And he was like, yeah, have at it. So we spent pretty much every weekend, sometimes twice a week, at the dry lake bed, just beating on the Corolla. And that's kind of how I really, really fell in love with drifting. And that was my first drifting
God.
experience.
That's like the
But I
OG
was,
sim, you know?
yeah, I mean, at the time we didn't have Sims, and
Right?
like real life driving was the only way we could get any sort of driving done. And obviously, as an underage, unlicensed kid, like there was no other way for me to drive other than having my dad take me out to the Tri Lake bed and get behind the wheel. But also at the same time, because he was still racing and like driving with rally and also these grassroots track events, there was an organization at the time called Speed Trials USA. Tommy was the owner of the organization, but he let us, join him at the track events. And I mean, obviously, I wasn't allowed to register, but my dad, he didn't really care, so he put me in the seat. He was like, "Yeah, go have fun on the track." So we went to Streets of Willow, Bun Willow,
Wow.
yeah, Thunderhill, like
At
a lot
age
of
what,
the big.
14?
Yeah, I was like 13 or 14. Um, but I didn't care about grip driving, so I would intentionally slide the car around the corners and get black flagged every other corner. And I can't remember how many track events we got kicked out of it. And Tommy at one point was like, "Dude, Gushi, you guys gotta stop doing that. You're gonna get me in trouble." So so yeah, we had to kind of like tone it down as speed trials events. But around 2001, 2002 was when a small group of SoCal Japanese American guys decided to, gather a group of enthusiasts and run their own events called Drift Day. Or at the time, it wasn't even called, it was Drift Day, but the owner hosted a website called Club 4AG, and that was like one of the original 4AG like drifting websites around where you can get all this Corolla information.
Yep.
And so, anyways, Club 4AG, Moto, and then Takao Ono, who's also a legend in Formula Drift, and Club 4AG, and all the Corolla stuff, and Hiro Sumida, they were the main guys that hosted these Drift Day events. And so while getting kicked out of speed trials, my dad was like, hey, Moto's hosting another event like at the Irwindale parking lot. Let's go. So we went straight from Bunwillow to Irwindale the same day and
What?
went from grip driving to drifting in the afternoon. Yeah.
That's
That was wild.
wild.
Yeah.
Jeez. So around that time too. So I was a big DVD guy growing up. With
Yeah.
all the the VHS was one thing, but when video option transitioned to DVD, YouTube became really big. Like 05, 06, 07. There was a series that
Mhm.
came out called Grip Video, and
Yeah.
Grip Video did. I believe it's like video 3 or 4. You were actually one of the featured drivers at the Team RSR driver search. And I think you were like 16 in your yellow S13.
Yeah. I was that was a it was a great well, okay, so there were two S13s at the time. There was a yellow one that Phase 2 Motor Trend built. That
Mm-hmm.
one was actually driven by a lot of different drivers. I think Ernie Fixmer drove it. Benson Su also drove
Oh
it.
wow!
I was in the lime green S13 in the video. Uh, but yeah,
And you,
RSR. Go ahead.
no, yeah, no. I mean, it was just the interview in there was kind of fun, just because seeing this kid that would now become obviously the position you're in now. But there was a clip that if I can find it, I'll make sure to put it in. But you were like, yeah, you and your dad stayed up all night wrenching on it, and then you drove to the event, and then did the event, and then drove home with no tranny fluid.
Ah, yeah, yeah. So that was actually my Champagne S13.
Okay,
That
all
was the
right.
first S13 that my dad bought for both of us. And so that specific event was the first event that we did after swapping in an SR20 into the car. Not, and clearly you guys know
Oh,
that
okay.
SRs never came in North America. And so, I mean, dude, this was like 20 some years ago. We had no information on how to wire up SR. We just kind of like guessed everything and got it running. We were so excited that we forgot to put gear oil in the transmission. So drove it to the track, miraculously made it, drove the event with no gear oil, and on the way home, we blew the transmission, and we found out that there was no gear oil in it.
I mean, realistically, the
Crazy
beginning of why
times.
people call SR20 God's motor, just because of all the abuse that stuff can take, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean that engine, that engine opened up a whole world for me because I was only used to driving, underpowered 4AGs, and obviously driving those, you got to beat the living hell out of them to get them to spin tires. So once we got into the SR, driving those in the same manner as I was driving a 4AG was crazy. I mean, it was just like, oh my god, this feels like a million horsepower.
And that's kind of the argument that a lot of people are making is you don't need a lot of power, especially when you start getting into drifting, just because fundamentals are key. What are some of the fundamentals that you think when you were starting out driving that you still fall back on today, 20 plus years later?
Well, it's funny. Just the other day, I was talking to my friend about the modern day A86, which I believe is the FRS BRZ. They're so underpowered. You have to really work for it to do what you want it to keep the tires spinning. They're basically the A86 of the current days, and I still believe that if you can drift an A86, you can drift any car out there. Um, because you really learn like the key fundamentals of like braking, weight transfer, throttle inputs, steering inputs. Like everything is so direct from the car to your body to the asphalt or the tarmac. So FRS, BRZ, same thing. They're so underpowered. You really got to understand the car and your inputs to get it to do what you want it to do. So, uh, yeah, I mean, those things I still carry till this day. And as a matter of fact, like I still find myself clutch kicking 1,000 horsepower car mid transition, just because it's a habit I built, 20 something years ago, of just clutch kicking every chance that I have just to keep the tires lit up. So even coming off like Irwindale, and RIP Irwindale, but coming off the
Hmm.
Irwindale bank, going into the infield, I would clutch kick coming off the bank to the transition where I don't have to. It's just a
What?
habit of clutch kicking every transition just to keep the car in power band. I mean, it's hard on the drivetrain, but I think it also sounds cool. And obviously, drifting is all about style. So, sound, the aggressiveness of the exhaust tone is also a part of style, and I like to keep that a part of me. Um, so, fundamentals of drifting: look cool, sound cool, clutch kick everywhere.
I love it. Well, I mean, that probably answers my next follow up would have been. So, a lot of guys are talking about these massive 100+ mile an hour entries, and then they
Mhm.
e brake for like 37 business days, and then just do like 12 miles an hour around the corner. So, obviously, you prefer the clutch kick initiation, I'm guessing, over an e brake initiation.
Well, I mean, I prefer the fastest way to initiate into the corner, the most aggressive. And sometimes, believe it or not, the handbrake or the e-brake is the only way that makes sense to enter, a corner. For example, Road Atlanta, coming
Phew.
down, towards turn 10A, 10B. You can clutch kick all you want to get the drift initiated, but to get the car to slow down and, keep the momentum and angle, like you're gonna have to dab the handbrake. I know, one driver last year. He's from FD Pro Spit, but Cole Richards. I don't know if you know
Hmm.
Cole
Yeah, absolutely.
and the FRS. Yeah, he lost his handbrake in the middle of competition, or his e-brake, and had no e-brake for his runs. And he did like the most gangster entry at Road Atlanta with no e-brake, with just using clutch and throttle. And I was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
that takes a lot of skill. But when you're like in the moment and like you're like amped up, I guess you can really do whatever your mind sets you to do. So I thought that was impressive. But now to answer your question, yeah, my favorite way to initiate a drift is possibly the most aggressive way I can get it to initiate while carrying the most momentum and speed. So I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's clutch kick, weight transfer, or a Scandi flick, or just throttling into it. Sometimes handbrake is the only one that makes sense. But like you said, I know guys that like drag handbrake for like forever to get their car to settle down. But hey, like you got to do what you got to do. I mean,
To each
I
their own,
wouldn't
I
do it,
guess.
but yeah, to each their own. The only thing I don't agree with is if you're gonna what is it, weight transfer or like manji into an initiation, so like a two-step initiation, I don't see why you have to handbrake into the first slide and then handbrake again into the second slide. Like, why not just like aggressively throw it into the
Absolutely.
first flick and then handbrake? Like I know, well, I mean,
A driver.
I know
We'll
some
call him,
pro.
A
I
driver.
know, I know a lot of drivers actually. A lot of drivers will like handbrake into like the first drift, even at AVS or Apple Valley Speedway, and then they'll handbrake again into the main corner. And I was like, why? Like, why don't you just use one handbrake into the main corner? But to each their own. I'm not here to
Absolutely.
talk smack.
No, hey, no, but agree, especially if you're following somebody and you're not maybe familiar with their line or their technique, and you're expecting them to do a little and then in and then pull the handbrake. But if they do a double handbrake and you slow up and you maybe suck in a little bit too much,
Oh yeah,
I
it's
mean, that's
dangerous.
an expensive day for everybody.
Yeah.
Did you think maybe there's some, especially in the grassroots? You talked about Apple Valley Speedway, awesome grassroots track in Southern California, frequented by a lot of pro guys. One thing that maybe, I guess, drift etiquette, a piece of advice for new guys coming on track if they are driving in like a hot lap situation. What's maybe one small thing about that? Because I know Apple Valley does the hot laps.
Yeah. Well, I could think of so many, but one of them, I guess, would have to be like, if you're chasing someone, like make sure they know you're chasing them, like you may
No
think you're good
random
and you might,
tandems. No
yeah, no
random
random
tandems.
tandems. Yeah. Like you may think you're good and you might be good, like you're a decent driver and you're just gonna like, get on someone's tail if they don't know that you're behind them. They might be trying a different technique. Like they might not necessarily be making mistakes, but they might be trying like like you said, a clutch kick initiation instead of a handbrake that they're used to, and they might screw up. And if they screw up and you're like 10 millimeters behind them and you hit them, they're not going to be happy about that. So that's one thing I see quite often is like people just get too hot headed and start chasing down everyone. I've made the same mistake before. I've crashed into people, and it's the worst feeling in the world when they're like, dude, like, what are you doing? I wasn't trying to tandem. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Um, yeah, and then there's other track etiquettes. Like if you go off course, don't be dragging 100 tons of dirt back onto the course. Like try to find the cleanest way out. That'll keep dirt off of the main line, driving line. Oil spills on pit or at pit, clean up after yourselves. Just respect the track, and the track will respect you, I guess.
Yeah, common
Those are one of
decency.
my,
It's not really that
yeah,
hard,
common
right?
decency. Yeah.
With the amount of tracks growing, I know Southern California is doing it just as much as the East Coast is doing it. The amount of opportunities for people to be able to take it off the streets and take it on track. Do you think that there's something that you like what these small tracks are doing, and maybe that there's something that you wish they would do? Kind of get both perspectives of your thoughts of how things are growing.
Yeah. So, specifically for Apple Valley Speedway, the owner, Calvin, he's a great guy, and he's really opened up the track for a lot of the locals to, stay off the streets. And it's helped tremendously. It's improved driving skills a lot. Um, it's helped the community keep drifting off the streets. And then, that's something that's we're always going to be fighting is like, keep driving or keep drifting on tracks and off the streets. But he's done a great job of hosting local events, welcoming everyone at Apple Valley Speedway. He's really created like a local grassroots drifting scene in California, where a lot of tracks are actually closing. We have no more Irwindale Speedway. We have no more SoCal Raceway, where we used to have drifting events in the parking lots. Willow Streets of Willow or Willow Springs Raceway just got bought out by another private company, so who knows what will happen to that. Bun Willow
Yeah.
doesn't allow drifting, so it's actually pretty hard to find drifting tracks in SoCal. Um, so with that said, Apple Valley Speedway is like a gateway to paradise for us. NorCal has quite a few venues where they can go drifting. Thunderhill is obviously one of
Mm-hmm.
them. Um, and it's cool to see like big tracks like Laguna Seca welcoming drifting, especially during grid life events. And a lot of the tracks we go to for Formula Drift, I mean, those are tracks that normally wouldn't allow that type of driving. I'm actually surprised venues like Road Atlanta or like even a Worldwide Technology Raceway would even allow drifting. But I guess that's a testament to how far the sport has come in terms of making it look like a professional series, not just like some street thugs that are doing burnouts in a parking lot causing a ruckus. But yeah, professionalism in drifting was really important early on to establish a foundation where these tracks would eventually welcome us. And I think Formula Drift organization, even groups like D1 Grand Prix, Option Video, like the early trendsetters, really did a great job and making that look professional in America. Because in Japan, till this day, it's hard for a lot of companies to accept that drifting is a professional sport. Hence the reason why sponsorship opportunities are extremely limited there. A lot of drivers struggle with funding because sponsors don't pay. A lot of teams are buying parts, buying tires, and it's only a handful of us guys out there in Japan that are getting like a full time ride and getting paid. So the US was like really ahead of the curve in making the sport grow. While Japan obviously it started there, but it was like always like so slow, went down, went up, went down. And I think more recently with Formula Drift USA making its way back to Japan, calling it the Formula Drift Japan Series, has helped the sport grow in a professional manner. Of course, having other professional drivers compete in the series helps establish that sort of like foundation and credibility. So for Japan, we had drivers like World Rally Champion Kalle Rovanperä
Hmm.
come to the series, draw a lot of attention from like rally fans into drifting. They're like, oh, drifting is actually pretty cool. Like it's a professional sport, you know. And so we had a lot of attention on that. And then we have like super GT or like super formula
Hmm.
drivers compete in the series now. So it's drawing a lot of attention where it hasn't before. And I think, drifting in Japan is still continuing to grow.
You touched on two things I do want to circle back to because they're really important with understanding how far our sport has gone, not just in America, but in Japan as well. The commercialization of drifting in America has definitely skyrocketed farther than Japan. I mean, you remember old D1GP videos. It's like what a grassroots comp would look like. If you start thinking of the way the judges were set up, the way
Yeah.
everybody's just sitting in a field, it was very, very similar and basic. Now, the other thing is there's not a lot of non-automotive sponsors in FDJ. It seems like 90% plus is automotive product related, whereas in America, you've got Neft Vodka, you've got when we were
Yeah.
doing Hyper NFT, DDE, all this kind of stuff. Do you think that's something that may be happening over the years in FDJ, or are they still really going to kind of take a while to push the narrative?
So that goes back to seeing drifting as a street hooning, or is it like a professional
Okay.
event? I think Japan is still in that transition of accepting drifting as a professional series, but more recently we've seen a lot of energy drink companies coming on board in Japan, which is pretty new to the scene out there. We have watch sponsors, so Casio or G-Shock, which is not
Wow.
automotive related, coming on. So we do have non-automotive brands starting to pick up like the value of drifting out there. So I think it's just a matter of time until we see something, I wouldn't say as like the same caliber as the US, but something similar happening in Japan.
The wheels on the bus go round and round, and your drift car should do the same. Let's be honest, there are so many wheel companies out there. It is definitely hard to choose from. But if you want fair pricing, great customer service, and a super quality product, look no further than Stage Wheels. Out of Richmond, Virginia, Stage offers 4 different wheel styles in multiple offsets, bolt patterns, and sizes to fit your application. Even better, use promo code The Dirt Drop for 10% off at checkout at www.stagewheelsna.com to be able to save on your next order. Also, be sure to check them out on Facebook and Instagram, Stage Wheels. The other thing I want to touch on too is how the sport has grown with accepting drivers from outside of Japan into the series. There's been a lot more international drivers over the last couple of years in FDJ, which is awesome. Obviously, US has the globe of drivers competing in it. We met back in 2006 back at Wall Speedway.
Mhm.
There were a lot of guys from Japan were still obviously doing it because we couldn't fill a full American field. It was just how things were. But now moving forward, it seems that America has kind of surpassed with the inclusiveness when it comes to the driver quality. Is there anything that you think some international drivers could do to be able to be more of possibly something they want to be able to join FDJ?
So FDJ is actually relatively easy to join. I mean, if you have some sort of like credibility anywhere in the world, in your own series, your own league, or your own country, it's actually pretty easy to get a license to
Wow.
compete in FDJ1, the highest level of drifting in Japan. And they welcome it. They actually want international drivers to come in and fill the seats. For the longest time in Japan, it was always just Japanese drivers. So if you've watched, D1 Grand Prix or even like the early days of FDJ, it was all Japanese drivers. And I think that's kind of what choked the series out there was just not having enough international drivers. And of course, in D1 Grand Prix, you've had drivers from Asia come, so Chinese drivers, Thai drivers, Singaporean drivers, but it was always just an Asian market. We never really saw like the Europeans or the Americans compete out there. Now in FDJ, and the reason why I think the series has grown so popular over the past couple of years is because they're very inclusive of foreign drivers. So we have
Wow.
Australian
Okay.
drivers, we have Brazilian
Yeah.
drivers, we have Finnish drivers. Obviously, I'm not a American driver, but I represent America when I compete out there. And then we have drivers from different motorsports like Super Formula, WRC. Um, and so that's really made the sport popular. And I think the Japanese series of Formula D is trying to mimic what the US series. And I think the US series and of course some of the European series will always be like the pinnacle of pro drifting. But in Japan, where drifting originated, FDJ is trying to be that at that level of pro drifting, and I see it like right in front of my eyes happening, where like the driving is getting way more aggressive. The sponsors are starting to invest into the series, and we're seeing a globalization of different drivers from different countries. So yeah, like I've seen drifting since day one, like you said, happen right in front of my eyes, and I'm still continuing to see the progression of drifting in different parts of the world.
And speaking of other parts of the world, the driving style between Japan and America is worlds apart, in my opinion. Is there?
Yeah.
I see. I mean, obviously, when you go and you have to kind of change up your style at some of these circuits just to be able to be in that form of competitiveness, and then you come back to America and it's back to the big hucks
Yeah.
and the hard charging. What's one thing that you notice is the major difference between Japanese drifting style and the American drifting style?
Well, there's a lot of different styles and
Okay, well then,
differences between the
yeah, give
two.
me give me as, give me
Yeah,
as much as you
I'll
can
start
then.
with a few. So, for one, the U.S. drifting style, obviously now in the series of our series Formula Drift, we got rid of qualifying. Right? We go straight into tandem battles, and because of that, it's pushed the drivers to be way more aggressive right from the start. So from the start of practice, everyone's trying to be on your door, leaving tire marks, your rear quarter panels, just trying to be as aggressive as they can. At first, it was horrible because right from the bat, people were just annihilating your door panel. It's a brand new build, for God's sake, and then people are charging hard, ripping off your quarter panel, putting dents on your door. I'm like, oh my God, I just got this painted last week. So just the aggressive level just went to 100 right away, right off the bat, round one Long Beach. And the driving is very aggressive here, and no one really gives a shit if you crash. Like if you hit them, you're like, okay, cool, well, I'll hit you back. And you can leave an event with a brand new car and come out with all of your panels missing, wheels falling off. So that's American. The Japanese is like the polar opposite. They're well, I don't want to say Americans are not respectful, but the Japanese are, I think, too respectful in a sense that
Mm.
they're so reserved in being aggressive. So first practice, no one's doing tandem. I can remember back in 2022, I went there to compete in the first season, my first full season with Kazama Auto, and my first practice session, the lead line is like a mile. I'm like, what the hell? Like, are we only allowed to practice leads? And they're like, no, you can hop in the chase if you want. I'm like, all right, cool. So I hop in the chase lane, and then the guy I'm gonna chase, he's like, no, no, don't chase me. I'm like, why?
What?
Isn't this open practice? They're like, oh, I just want to practice my lead. So I found out like when there's qualifying in Japan, until qualifying is over, almost every single driver wanted to practice just the lead lane, just leads, and they
No
hated it if you chased
way.
them. So at some point, I'm like, man, I'm getting tired of this. I'm just gonna chase you anyway. So I would chase them and like just practice tandem. And at the end of the run, they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, whatever." So they
Do,
were
do,
like
do,
scared to
do.
practice tandem. Yeah, I'm just doing my own thing. So they're a little scared to practice tandem, or they got really offended when you chased them down. Um, but it's open practice. Like I was allowed to do whatever I want. And I think after that, these drivers started to realize that I had an advantage going into tandem because I already had, however many tandem practice runs. And these guys are barely starting to practice tandem right as top 32 was about to start. So that narrative started to change. Like I started to notice more and more drivers starting to split the line, going into the chase lane, practice chase runs before qualifying. Um, and so there's this change happening of like the Japanese drivers also starting to become a little bit more aggressive, like the US side, but not nearly as aggressive. I mean, the US is a whole different level. Now, as far as driving styles, I have to start with by saying that the tracks are entirely different. Like the track layout is different. In America, we have a lot of, banked tracks. We have a lot of circle tracks. We have a lot of walls. In Japan, we have a lot of international circuits where there are no concrete barriers, so it's pretty much open. It's fast entry, really full throttle commitment, really quick, snappy transitions, but barely any walls. We do have wall tracks, like the last round we were at in Okuibuki, which is like a ski resort
Hmm.
access road into it's like a parking area, but there's walls there. So Japanese drivers are now starting to get used to proximity to walls and like really charging hard against the walls and scraping bumpers. But we've been doing it for decades in the US. So yeah, that style of wall driving is now transitioning to Japan. And we're seeing like the drivers get really close and aggressive to walls. But yeah, it's the track layouts are just too different to really compare the different driving styles. But I did learn a lot of things competing in Japan that I can apply here, like the stylish driving. I think Japan has it down, like hands down. Japanese
Mm.
drivers are super stylish with their like really aggressive, quick flicks to initiation, throttle work, like the way they work their throttle trying to gain traction.
So yeah, so with the driving style being different from Japan and stuff, there's still on the grassroots side of Japanese driving. I mean, really some great opportunities to be able to showcase not just style, but learning opportunities. You've got the Maihan C course, you've got
Mm.
Ibisu, you've got a lot of these opportunities to be able to drive that course style instead of with the walls and everything. What's maybe some of the things that you feel that they're learning in Japan that may be different than America when it comes to the grassroots side of things? I know you've been to a couple of tracks over there.
Yeah, so the good thing about Japan is that there's pretty much an open track day, I think literally every day of the week. So any day of the week, you
Wow.
can find some sort of event or an open track day. Even at Ibisu, if you pay for like a day pass, you can hit up every open course at Ebisu. There's Nishi or East, West, there's North course, there's Toge course, there's Kurukuru Rando. There's so many different courses at Ebisu that's pretty much available every day of the week, unless they have an event or a private filming thing going on. And then you got Nikko Circuit, which is also a
Hmm.
great place. They're not open every day, but they have events all the time that you can join. Um, in Aomori, there's MSP, which is owned by FDJ driver Kohashi Masanori. Like that place is also available to
Hmm.
drift. Like you said, Meihan. There's just so many driving opportunities in Japan um, that really gives you the opportunity to practice real life drifting. The only chance I get now today is actually my sim behind me. But I like to, I spend as much time as I can on the sim. But that's because we don't have the access to, the different local tracks, at least where I'm from. Uh, but yeah, Japanese drifting community is it's pretty amazing.
No, I haven't
Even
been
at
able
Ebisu,
to. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you know Andy Gray. Andrew Gray is a
Hmm.
former FDJ champion. He
Power
drove
vehicles, Andy,
here.
right?
Yes, power vehicles. Yeah. So he'll help you find a car. He's even offered storage opportunities for some drivers to keep your car there in the venue in between months of the Ebisu Matsuris, or if you just want to have him ship out your car, he can do that too. So there's a lot of support for not just the driving aspect, but also, like the technicalities of drifting. Like, oh, where do I find a drift car? Like, who can service my drift car? Who's going to ship it out for me?
I had a group of friends go over to Japan. They did like 14 days, and one of their things was they rented a JZX90 at Abisso to be able to drive a couple of days. But the owner lived in, I want to say, Australia, and then the car was just there. It was very foreign concept that essentially hey,
Mhm.
here's like, what is it, $2,000 or something for a couple of days or whatever. And then if they broke a radiator, they went to Up Garage and they got a radiator. And
Mhm.
so, can you kind of explain a little bit more of understanding of how those programs work? Again, I'm still learning a little bit, but I know you've got a lot more information on that when it comes to these rental cars and just jumping into something at a track that's not really a concept that we have here in America.
Yeah. So there's a lot of drifting rental programs out in Japan. One of the big ones I can think of is Sideways X Japan, which is hosted by Yukio Fausto. He's another competitor in the FDJ series. But I believe with their program, you just pay a fee. You know, you get the car, whether it's a S15 or a 100. You drive at Ebisu or wherever they take you to, but the fee is all inclusive. So I think if you break it, it's already covered by the fee that you paid. Other rental program like Daigo's
Wow.
program, he's offered rental programs for Formula Drift. So in that sense, you have to pay the initial rental fee, and then there's an agreement saying like, oh, if you break this is the cost. If you blow the engine, this is the cost. And I think every rental program is written differently. I don't think there's like a one rental program for all type of deal. But for me, I
Okay.
would recommend hitting up Power Vehicles. They have a ton of cars on their lot, some for rent, some for sale. And yeah, it's just like very transparent, straight up guy that'll take care of you.
Seeing a lot of cars, obviously now in 2025, the 25-year rule, you can get cars from year 2000 imported here in America. And we're starting to see more, even at the grassroots level, more Soars, more 90s, more 100s, more S14s,
Mhm.
15s, the whole gamut. But some of these cars, they were drift cars in Japan, they don't exactly have the best life before coming here. And then they're at least 25 years old. It's cool to have a right hand drive car, but seeing that you've been obviously a part of both worlds, if you're looking at buying a right hand drive car from Japan as a drift car here in America, what are some of these things that you need to be looking out for on these cars that may help you shy away from getting a?
Well, that depends, I think. It depends on what you're looking for, your intentions with it. If you're just trying to buy a right-hand drive just because you want to be in a right-hand drive, because I think there's plenty of great left-hand drive options that we have here. But if you're just wanting to get in a right-hand drive just for the hell of it, then I say it really shouldn't matter what you get. But if you're trying to drive a right-hand drive and like preserve it and drive it like nice, keep it clean, there's a lot of, I guess, sellers that'll work with you in taking pictures underbody, making sure that the car is straight, frames are straight, original paint, original suspension. You just gotta make sure
Rust.
you're working with the right people. Yeah, rust. So yeah, they'll
Oh,
get the car up on all four, take very detailed photos of every corner of the underbody to show you like if there are any rust or damage, frame damage, if the car was lowered at any point. And then there are sellers that'll just sell you anything. So you just got to make sure you're looking out for yourself and working with the right people. But now that goes back to, your intentions with it. Are you just trying to beat on it, drift it, don't really care if you crash? Then you just go for the cheapest thing and work. But I recently picked up a 99 Crown right-hand drive, like original paint, super clean, no rust, and I have no intentions of drifting that thing.
beautiful car, by the way. Beautiful, beautiful
Yeah,
car.
thank you.
But before that, you had a IS 300, I think, that you beat the ever living dog mess out
Yes,
of.
I still have it. That car I
Do
will
you?
never sell. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually drove it at the Fab event this past March, and like you said, I beat the living hell out of it, blew a tire, and completely annihilated the whole rear end. So I just got my new rear quarter panels, a new body kit, and I'm just waiting for the Formula Drift season to end. So I have a lot of time to take it apart, get it freshly painted, and do it all over again. It's funny. Every time I take that car to the track, I'm ordering brand new body panels, which sucks. My friends are like, "Dude, why do you keep ordering? Like, why do you even put those panels on the car knowing that you're going to destroy them?" Like, because I want my car to look cool when I'm about to destroy it.
Thank you. Fine. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I'm seeing too many cars, especially
Yeah.
just, first time drifters or whatever. No bumper, exposed bash bars, no side skirts,
Yeah.
really cut. I'm like, there's still a style component to this that we seem to be getting
Yeah.
away from. So it's nice to see that somebody appreciates a full bodied car.
See,
Um,
it's full circle. Remember what I said in the beginning of this? Sound cool, look cool. Even as if
so
you're about to destroy that thing.
Exactly, but going full circle, there's something that you've been a part of. I want to say the last 2 years, if I've been keeping track, is so you with Toyota Gazoo Racing for the last couple of years. Threes
Mhm.
Racing, obviously your brand, that whole thing. Gretty transitioning, but Toyota's been doing a project that you've been the pinnacle, I guess, point of contact on, working with. I believe it's MIT in developing the
Yes,
first A90 AI driven
autonomous
Supra.
drifting. Yeah.
Dude, break that down. I
So
saw a small clip, but I need to
yeah.
know.
So that's actually Stanford, not MIT.
Okay.
Ooh,
Okay.
you might get in trouble by saying that. Just kidding.
Here I go.
Rival
Yeah.
schools. Yeah. So Stanford and Toyota actually came up with a pretty cool project. Instead of just autonomous driving, they wanted to create autonomous drifting. And although it sounds cool, like, oh, professional caliber drift car with no driver, ultimately it was for the future of autonomous driving technology, so safety or like accident mitigation and prevention. And it was just a cool project for the students at Stanford to take part of with Toyota to come up with something that was so far advanced and also reactive to the modern technology available to make something like tandem drifting or autonomous tandem drifting happen. um, my role for that project was to give them input on what I, as a human being, feel while the car is sliding. So, what am I looking for in the feel of the car, and then how that equates to my outputs. So, the inputs I'm receiving from my feel to the outputs of my hands, my feet, where my eyes are looking. And then they will translate that data into their software, trying to mimic what feel is on a software. So that's like the hardest thing to program, right? Like,
Jeez.
human feel is not something I can just like write up on data. Like, it's something that we feel as living creatures. So how do you translate that data into software is what their genius minds worked on. And then they came out with the world's first successful autonomous driving A90 Supra. They actually uh, built a DeLorean that was autonomous drifting before the A90
What?
Supra, but that one was only capable of doing very simple figure eights and donuts and very small, I guess, track layouts, like low speed. But the A90 Supra that they built was built to do very high speed, highly technical drifting maneuvers, tandem.
That is
That was
incredible.
cool.
So,
Yeah.
timeline. So, proof of concept from when this started to shooting the commercials to be able to showcase this. How long did this whole project take that you were aware of?
So the project itself is actually still ongoing. And as
Okay.
you know, like, technology constantly evolves and changes. So they're able to pick up new technology and adapt that into the current project. But from the time that we received the car to build it, so the car itself, before they added all the autonomous software and hardware, was built at Gretty. They did
Okay.
all the fabrication, the roll cage, the Fab arms, Samsona's sequential transmission. The engine horsepower work was all done in house at Gretty. They picked up the car, and maybe it took them about 6 months to retrofit all the hardware. So 6 months at ours, 6 months at theirs. So maybe about a year to get the car running, and maybe another year or so to get the autonomous, system built into the car, programmed for it to finally do its first donut. It's still an ongoing project. I mean, we got that thing in 2021,
Okay.
actually. So it's actually 4 years ago. No, yeah, 2021. 2021 was when it started running. They got the car in 2020. 2021, they
Oh,
got the car
wow.
running. Yeah, so it's like been 4 years, almost five now.
I mean, pandemic aside and everything, I'm sure that helped, play something into it, just making it a little bit difficult, especially, I believe, Stanford and Gretty, and then all these moving companies to be able to get, hands on the car and the data and testing. It's just,
Yeah,
it kind of shows, because, I mean, this isn't the first time we've had some sort of technological advancement in drifting. What was it, a couple, 3, 4 years ago? The EV Gen 5 Camaro? That,
right.
you know,
Yeah, that
yeah,
Travis Reeder drove.
and exact that never did around because of, I believe it was insurance and fire safety stuff was the big thing.
Well, okay, so there were rounds that it was allowed, but for those rounds that it wasn't, it was because the track didn't have the fire support necessary to put out an EV fire,
Yeah, I mean
is what
that's a
I believe
huge,
what
huge, huge
happened.
thing, or at least what
Yeah.
they told us, just to be able to keep things copacetic. But that car was
Yeah.
an absolute monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, being able to see it
Um,
at testing. I mean, so we haven't really had a hybrid ever. That's the one thing I noticed as far as drifting. Do you think that electric stuff, hybrid EV, is going to start playing a major role here, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, starting in grassroots, then going to the pro level?
I don't know. I mean, obviously they use hybrid in every other form of motorsports, right? We got hybrid rally cars, we got hybrid prototypes. Formula One has hybrid. I mean, every other racing entity has hybrid. Um, but I don't know if hybrid will do well, or even if it's necessary in drifting. I mean, we're already at the point where you know internal combustion engines are producing sufficient horsepower to keep our tires lit up, and any more horsepower, it becomes too much. But now adding hybrid power and the battery and all that might add weight that we don't need. So I don't know if we'll ever see professional hybrid drifting. I mean, at some point we have to consider, what's, I guess, good for the planet, and we can't continue to burn, gasoline and rubber in the tremendous amounts that we do. So I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's like years, maybe decades ahead of me, and by that time, I might not even be driving or competing. So that's not something for me to worry about. But it would be cool. I mean, I'm all about technological advances and working for the future and the environment. So if we can see hybrid, that's cool. The one thing I do like about hybrid race cars is I don't know if you know the prototype Cadillac. It's a hybrid.
The
I forgot
V,
what they
the
call it, but
prototype V.
yeah, the V.
Yeah.
Um, it's like a race car in pit lane. It sounds like it's electric. It's like crazy motor one, and all of a sudden the engine picks up. It's like the whole world exploded. That's
Well,
badass.
whether you've got a drift car, a show car, a jacked up truck, or just a really nice daily, there's always one way you can make it have that next level of style. Throw some underglow on that bad boy. Be able to make sure that you use not just any product, but glow towed products. Why is that? Well, they come with pre terminated connectors and lines, which means no crimping, soldering, or wiring involved other than hooking up to the battery. That's right, this is not your granddaddy's LED kit. They use 3M adhesive strips. They have all the mounting hardware to be able to use on multiple surfaces, detailed instructions, and a bunch of different freebies included in every order. Now, how do you save some money? You go to their website, www.glow-toad.com, and at checkout, make sure to use promo code TheDirtDrop.
to be able to save 10% off your next order. To be able to see more of their work online, check them out on Instagram at Glowtoad Lighting.
That almost reminds me of back when Audi had the diesel in
Yeah,
Le Mans.
Audi had the diesel. Yeah.
And the LMG PT2, and that car just blew everyone's mind, and that was not even 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
So with that too, talking about the technological advancements, there's been a bunch of companies that have reverted to going back to recreating parts for these 20, 30 plus year old cars. I mean, what was it? Gazoo, y'all's in partnership. The 4AG is coming back, heads and blocks.
Yep.
You've got Dart had the 2J they in most recently with the billet stuff. So it's almost like you don't have to go and buy these 30-year-old 2JZs and trying to be able to make them work with all this kind of stuff. What other parts do you want to kind of see or hope to see that would maybe help keep these chassis formidable in the coming years?
Well, if we're referring to the AE86, like you said, Toyota did just recently announce that they're reproducing, 4AG complete long block engines. Toyota's actually announced quite a few of those with the Supras, the Corollas. But I do want to see more like restoration parts that'll help keep these cars on the road. I think we've come to a point where it doesn't make sense to drift 4AGs or A86s or the A90s or even the A70s. A lot of these old classic Japanese drift cars that we used to use are now becoming very expensive and hard to afford. And they're becoming collectors' cars. Even the S chassis, like S13s, are so expensive now. Like to find one in clean condition is nearly impossible unless you're paying north of 20 grand.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, with that, if these manufacturers can help produce restoration parts like body panels, rear quarter panels, even hoods, doors, trunks, that'll be pretty cool. And so I think it's pretty cool to see what manufacturers like Toyota is doing, Nissan's doing, Dart even. Like these aftermarket companies are helping us keep old cars on the road.
Well, with that too, if they're getting out of drifting, that's going to force these drivers to be able to be driving newer chassis in when it comes to drifting. But let's go back to the concept of a 2005 car is 20 years old now, coming up on 21 years. So
That's
looking at
crazy.
the availability of what we have stateside left-hand drive stuff, what are some vehicles that people could possibly start gravitating towards, in your opinion, as their starter drift vehicle, instead of saying, hey, go find an S13 because I don't have $20,000?
Right. So it's nice to see manufacturers really getting involved and invested into professional drifting, right? We got Toyota Gazoo Racing and Formula Drift. We got Ford and Formula Drift. We got Nissan. We have all these manufacturers invested into drifting that are still continuing to produce, sports cars that are front engine rear wheel drive. Um, Brand new, like you can buy them off the lot, 5, 6 speed manual rear wheel drive. We got the GR86, we got even the A90 Supra, we got Ford Mustangs, we got all these cars that are still available with the stick shift that are rear wheel drive. But even without having to go to the dealership and buying brand new cars, we still have like the 2014, 2012 Scion FRS. We still have the S197 Mustangs that are available in the used market. We have the E90 BMW chassis or
Oh,
E92s,
yes.
right? We have a lot of cars that are available that are more recent, um, with also having a lot of parts available. We have companies like WiseFab producing suspension components for these, like, mid teen 2000 teen era cars, even the early 2000 cars. So you don't have to necessarily gravitate towards like the 90s expensive S chassis or the RX-7s or the Corollas, or even like the A86. Like you don't have to get those. Like you can
No.
just buy a more recent BMW chassis, Scion FRS, Mustang. RX-8s are very affordable. I wouldn't consider them reliable, but they're affordable. But yeah, there's a lot of choices out there that you can, pick out of if you want to just use for drifting, and save the S chassis and the Corollas for car collectors like myself.
Absolutely. I know you're a big Jay-Z guy, you're a big Toyota guy, but swaps seem to be also like we talked about the RX-8, LS swaps, 2J swaps, stuff like that. But it's not exactly the first thing you want to do when you're looking at buying a drift car. What's when it comes to modifications, when they're like, all right, let's say I just bought a 2012 BRZ. What are probably the
Mhm.
first three things I want to look to doing to that car as a first time drifter that would help me learn at the proper, I would say, rate instead of having to go all in first car?
First thing I've always done, even before like suspension modifications or wheels and tires, was a steering wheel. God, I
Mm.
hate drifting with the stock steering wheel. It just feels so big and bulky, and for some reason, it makes the car feel lousy. I don't know if it's just like a placebo because it's a bulky wheel that you're trying to rotate, but it just feels
Hmm.
lousy. So the first thing I would do is change the steering wheel to something that's like lighter, and then after that, I would get better suspension, invest in a lot of spare wheels. If it has an LSD like a Torsen or anything, then just leave it at that for now. Feel it out, and then you'll start to pick up on what the car needs eventually. But I know a lot of guys like just invest a ton of money into fixing up the car, not knowing how to drift, and then they go out there and they're so lost in setup and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know why the car is doing what it's doing. I say start with the basics, just wheels, tires, make sure it has an LSD, lower the car, stiffen up the ride a little bit, go from there. But steering wheel first, always. Steering wheel, if it has good seats, leave it. If it has terrible seats, get some decent seats. So ergonomics, seating position, steering wheel.
Being in control of the car is kind of an important thing, I think.
Yeah. And I think it's good to actually understand what body roll and stock suspension feels like. That way it's like embedded in your body, like, oh, this is a lot of roll, like guys just slap on coilovers right away. They start understeering, not knowing why, and they're just like plowing through the brakes or it's like cutting the wheel too hard. Where having stock suspension teaches you like the fundamentals of body roll and weight transfer.
Well, yeah, when you throw on coilovers, you still need to learn how to tune suspension. You've got preload, you've got
Yeah,
ride height, you've got all this stuff.
right.
You need to know shock value. Like it's not just
Yeah,
go and slap on these feels or these BCs or
right.
whatever. But so when we were growing up, we had forums, and I think that was a huge advantage that we had when it came to sharing knowledge and spreading knowledge. Now the forums aren't exactly as popular. What are some avenues that you can help to kind of guide newer drifters on being able to make sure they're pointed in the right direction where they're learning, I would say, what they need to know and not taking away from like all the BS noise that's out there?
So that's a tough question. I think the internet is so full of BS nowadays. Obviously, it's full of like great information, like awesome knowledge, awesome guys like you guys. But there's also a lot of BS on the forums, not the forums, the internet, right?
Hmm.
Guiding you the wrong direction. And there's a lot of like, what is it, keypad warriors or whatever, just like
Yeah.
not giving you or feeding you the right stuff. The best way to really get into drifting, I think, is just to go to the venue, to go to the grassroots events, um, put yourself in the environment, talk to the people that are actually doing the sport, that are actually doing the driving, um, and just learn firsthand. Like, just go back to square one instead of like going to the internet. Go to the venue, go to the events in person, be there in person, talk to the people, ride shotgun with these people, and really feel it out. Yeah, I don't think the internet. I think the internet's great, obviously, but I don't think it's the only place for you to learn and really get yourself into drifting. Otherwise, you can spend a couple $1,000s on a simulator and practice sim drifting. That's probably the best alternative to actual in real life driving.
Now you are an individual just like me who drove for many, many, many years before getting behind a sim. Like I don't count Gran Turismo, I don't count Fords, all that fun stuff. Sim driving is the true pinnacle of, I guess, video game motorsports, but actually being able to take that and put it on track. How are you in the sim? I mean, I've seen all sorts of opinions of what the sim is, but how has the sim helped you? And what are some stumbling blocks that you had to overcome versus going from real life to sim driving?
So I'm gonna speak just based on my personal experience
Of
and what I
course.
believe in as far as, sim driving. But for me, sim driving does not exactly feel the same as in real life drifting. Like it's very separate, very different. The good thing about sim drifting is that it keeps your mind or your mentality in like competition mode, right? Like so you can drift so many laps in the sim and try to like perfect it. And then at one point you tell yourself, okay, I have two shots, I have 2 laps for qualifying. I have to nail it. So you get yourself in that competition mentality and do the 2 laps and like nail it. And you're like, okay, cool, I'm ready. And also you can do like hundreds and thousands of laps on the simulator. Crash, reset. You can't do that in real life, right? You crash in
Yeah.
real life, you're in the pits for hours fixing the damage. So there's no reset button in real life that the sim has to offer. Not only that, but because you can drive online now, you can drift with actual drivers that are also in the sim and in practice together. It just keeps you, I guess, conditioned for real life competition. So I did like 800 laps on the sim before I went out to Salt Lake City. And right off the bat, my first lap, I noticed that like I was so familiar with the track. Like I knew every edge, every point of transition. I knew where I had to be looking on track from the get-go, only because I had invested, so many hours on the sim. So that's kind of how I see it, is that it just keeps you conditioned and ready for the real life experience.
No, and I think that's also changed professional drifting just because that's what F1 drivers do. That's what NASCAR drivers do. That's what, the rally drivers do. They do all this conditioning before they go out to the race or even at the track if, you're a, F1 team, but the proof is in the pudding to see the guys who and gals who are putting in the practice beforehand and then showing up on race day, and that's a testament to the aggressive driving that you talked about. Like you can get a little bit harder because you found the limits back, in your pajamas and flip flops, in your living room.
Right. Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. Yeah.
and
I
then
mean,
with
you got
guys,
guys
go
like,
ahead.
oh, sorry.
You were going to
You
say what
got
exactly I
guys
was going to
like
say.
Hiro Minoa
And Connor,
and
I'm sorry,
Connor.
Sorensen. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean
Sorensen's, we got Hiro Minoa.
Jay the Drifter
There's a
in the
lot of
Corvette.
guys. Yeah, there's a lot of guys
Yeah.
that, invested so many hours in the sim and they came out swinging. So it's just a testament to what the sim has to offer. And we're just lucky to have companies like Sim Magic that are also invested into the series, into Formula Drift. They're at the venue with their sim rigs set up so that the fans can also experience what sim drifting is all about. And so if you guys are ever at Formula Drift, just you should swing by the Sim Magic pit and give it a try, because I think it'll change the way you look at, video, not just video games, but like pretty advanced simulators.
Well, and you don't need to drop 10 G's on your first simulator. It's just, I mean, granted, Sim
No,
Magic offers the
no, yeah,
pinnacle gold label product, but you can pick a
right.
Logitech G920 up and single screen and then progress from
Yeah,
there,
a
just like you
hundred bucks.
would. Yeah. Um, can you describe your sim setup if you don't mind what you've got?
Yeah, I can show you. It might be hard to show you, but I have. Let me unplug you real quick. So my setup is actually very simple. I have a Sparkle rig with a Sim Magic setup, Sim Magic pedals, a wheelbase, hydraulic Sim Magic handbrake, sequential shifter. Um, I actually use VR, not a single
Ah,
monitor.
okay.
So the
Yeah,
single
yeah.
monitor is there just to get through the software, and then once I get the
Okay.
game started, I'm on VR.
Is it
Yeah,
Oculus setup?
yeah. It's a Meta Quest 3, basically Oculus.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. My setup right now is actually right hand drive because I have to be going to Japan in a few weeks to do some right hand drive drifting. So depending on what I'll be driving, I change the setup.
And that's a testament too. Again, being able to have a right-hand drive practice car and a left-hand drive practice car isn't feasible.
Yeah.
But with a sim, you're
Right.
like unbolt shifter,
Yeah,
put it on the other
exactly.
side.
Yeah.
Was there anything that when you started out in the sim that you felt was just because I'll be honest, when it came to wheel feedback, like I set my wheel up, I did the everything, but just not having that weight transfer and then the feedback through the wheel was my biggest hurdle. Was there anything like that for you?
Absolutely. And the reason why I use VR is exactly for that. So I don't have a motion rig. I don't feel anything on my body. I mean, obviously, I
Hmm.
have the pedal reactors that Sim Magic offers on the pedal, so it vibrates and whatnot. And the steering wheel force feedback gives you like a realistic feel, but my butt doesn't feel anything. The only thing I have to rely on is my eyes. So with VR, I can actually turn my head like everywhere and see exactly what the car is doing, where the car's pointed. When I first started, I had a triple monitor setup, and I
Hmm.
think that's way better compared to a single monitor. But I just couldn't get myself to feel what the car was doing, even with the triple monitor, and that was way before
Okay.
Assetto Corsa was so advanced that it had the head tilt or the neck tilt. So it was fixed. Now, once I went VR, and this was back in 2020 during the pandemic, and the reason
Oh
why I got a
wow.
sim in the first place was because we had nothing to do, and I was so bored out of my mind that I was like, I should get a sim if I'm going to be spending so much time at home. And so I got a Oculus Rift, and that was like mind blowing. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. And I spent like 10 hours a day on the sim back then. But now, like I said, of course, that's so far advanced now. Even like the hardware, Sim Magic hardware, the VR stuff is so far advanced now. Like the resolution in the monitor is actually pretty good. It's not all pixelated and all that. So yeah, it's as at least my setup is as advanced as I can afford. Um, it's pretty cool. Not the cheapest setup, but it's definitely not the most expensive. It's got no motion rig, so relatively affordable.
And the fact that you're able to have that known feedback from doing, like you said, 800 laps before you go to see St. Louis, or I'm sorry, Salt Lake, um,
Yeah.
and then feeling it on the track, using your butt dyno at that point, uh, definitely shows that there is an advantage to it. So I guess realistically, if you're getting into drifting for the first time, and in one hand you've got the drift car, in the other hand you got the opportunity to get a sim, you only got to pick one. Which one are you going with? I know, I
Oh
know, I
man,
know. This is yeah. Everyone has their own opinion. I'm just curious.
I would go for the real car.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any
and
particular reason why?
yeah, because it goes back to like the actual experience of really doing it, like of really drifting a car in real life. Hearing the tire squeal, smelling the tire smoke, hearing the exhaust note, like feeling the engine vibration through the steering wheel, and like really directly feeling the inputs of like your throttle work, your steering, your eyes, like everything in real life. Like sim is great and all that, but it's nowhere close to the real life experience.
That's all I
No, that's
needed to
me
hear.
now. That's me now. Yeah. And
Yeah,
for someone
catch
starting
you in.
off, I don't know.
Hey, but again, I think everyone learns differently. Like
Yeah.
I think some of these younger kids, like they get the sim way better than we ever could have back when we first started,
Mhm.
just because that wasn't even an option. So
Right.
I'm really excited to see what these 13-year-olds are coming out with, and then in 5 years, they're putting the hurt on us old guys. When
Well, we're already seeing that. We're already
yeah, I
seeing
know.
that. These
I
kids in Formula Drift, man, they're crazy.
Well, and we also have a nice range. Like again, when we started, everyone was in their teens and 20s. There were very
Yeah.
few people in their 30s in Formula Drift, at least USA.
Right.
Now, what? Rudy's over 40. Chris is over 40. Vaughn's over 40. I mean, I know you're
Yeah.
pushing
I'm
40 like
almost
me. It's
40.
just.
Yeah.
um,
So in
the-
Japan, sorry, go ahead.
no. I was curious to see
Oh,
where you
okay.
went with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so in Japan, there's actually three different series. There's FDJ1, which is like the highest level. There's J2, and then there's J3. In J2, the series points leader I believe, is a 13-year-old kid. Yeah. I think
No way.
second place is actually older, but like the more recent podium winners are all middle school kids
in
from
real
sim
cars.
driving in real cars, but they were
And I
raised on the
believe,
sim.
well, FDJ2 isn't parking lot events either. FDJ2 happens at some of the same tracks you
Real
drive at.
tracks. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sugal, Fuji. It's
Good
it's
night.
wild.
So
Yeah.
and then you mentioned FDJ3. I am very unfamiliar with J3. Can you kind of explain what that series is about?
Yeah, so J3 is like, I guess, pro-am level series that Formula Drift
Okay.
Japan offers, and that's the ticket into J2, which is, makes sense. That's the ticket into J1. So you got to go through these ranks to make it to J1. But J3 also has so many middle school kids that are, originally sim drivers, now taking their chances at, real life competition. And of course, a lot of times their fathers are like former D1 drivers, former or even current FD drivers. We got, I don't know, well, I'm pretty sure you know Naoki Nakamura. His kid, he's got two kids driving. One of them is in D1 Street Legal or maybe even
Okay.
D1 Grand Prix now. The other kid's in FDJ3, both of them kicking ass like crazy.
I mean, well,
And
yeah,
then you
Dimitri
got obviously,
Brutsky's.
yeah, Brewski's kid, the real son of a drifter.
Yeah, I mean, he was at East
Yeah,
10 and putting the hurting on those guys.
yeah,
Realistically,
exactly.
then I think so. J2, J3 has a lot more, in my opinion, than when it comes to potential that our Pro Spec and Pro Am series is, and that's not saying anything against our drivers. It's just I think based on earlier in the podcast, you talk about how the technicality and just how you get raised in the sport. Um, Plus, I mean, I know there's some JGTC drivers that have kids that are going up in J3 as well. So some of these disciplines you're able to adopt in Japan easier than not many NASCAR families are putting kids in Formula Drift.
Yeah. Well,
So
as far as the transition from like, the father and the son and letting the son take over the role, I think Japan, we see a lot of that more over in Japan than we do here. Like, I don't think we see any former FD driver kids competing in FD just yet, except Hiro Minoa, because his dad's a former FDJ driver. Um, but yeah, other than that, I don't see any other father son teams
now
competing.
going with the licensing, then as far as the kind of competitions, you've got Hot Pit, you've got our U.S. Drift Scouting Report, you've got U.S. Drift Circuit down in Florida. I think I'm missing one. Um, East 10, obviously, over here. When it comes to the level of pro-am drivers that you're seeing, uh, I mean, do you feel that some of these drivers are really ready to step up to Pro Spec? Because Pro Spec has turned on its nose in the last 5 years as
Yeah.
far as competitiveness.
Yeah, sometimes I find myself watching Prospect more enjoyable than the actual pro rounds, only because they're very eager, right? They're very eager to make it to the next level, and they're all on the spec tire. They're all on the same tire. It really comes down to their car setup and skill, which differentiates the best drivers from like the rest of the drivers. But yeah, like you said, ProSpec has definitely turned it up quite a few notches in the past 3 years, even, and every year it just gets crazier and crazier. But yeah, I mean, I don't think. Well, okay, so I think watching that and seeing a lot of these pro-am drivers trying to make it into pro spec, I see. I don't have any doubts that they'll do bad. Like I think they'll do great. We see a lot of great talent out there, especially in events like East 10 or even Hot Pits. Um, yeah, it's just a matter of time before we see them at Pro Spec.
Absolutely, and I mean the power that some of these cars are making in Pro Spec, just even on a 255, is absolutely insane. But it's nice to still see the range of programs. Like back when Pro 2 first started, I mean, there were 400 wheel horsepower cars out there that were just
Yeah,
doing their absolute best. But
yeah.
seeing that evolution, do you still feel that like the privateers have a chance to be able to have a good program, or what maybe some things that they can do to help their program be more competitive if you see that they're struggling?
To be honest with you, I think it's harder now than it ever has been for a privateer to like be super competitive, even in prospect, because prospect cars nowadays are literally pro cars with just smaller tires. You know what I mean? Same horsepower, same engine specs, same transmissions that we use, but just smaller tires. So you put a big 295 or a 305 on them, and they're pretty capable of keeping up with our pro cars. If not, some of them might be even be faster than our cars. But yeah, with that said, the cost to run an FD program car is just so crazy, and for a privateer to do it, it's going to cost, at least for our series, like at least 250,000 to run a full season. That will, of course, that's car inclusive, and you got to feed your staff because you can't be doing everything on your own. You got to have your crew, your mechanics, spotters. It's a whole operation that costs a lot of money, and I think 250,000 is on the low side. That's just to barely get by the full season. But yeah,
Now, is that for pro or
you
for
have money.
prospect that your opinion is?
Pro,
Okay,
pro.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, even there are some privateers that are doing well, and driving skill is no longer the main thing to become successful in Formula Drift. Would you agree?
I agree. I think everyone has the ability and the skill set to win. I think to win, you got to have, of course, the driving, of course, the machine, but also a ton of luck, a lot of luck, actually. Um, and the guys that are winning just seem to be able to capture that luck when they see it. Like they're so quick to, get a hold of the luck and keep that momentum going. Well, we see guys that have a lot of driving talent, a great machine, but just terrible luck. Like, other drivers plowing into them, taking out the rear subframe, gone for the whole weekend after that. And, we got guys with machine troubles. They have a solid team, solid driver, but an engine failure takes them out. Drifting is hard. I mean, it's so hard on these cars. Like we're constantly bouncing off the rev limiter where intake air temps are skyrocketing past 200 degrees, coolant's boiling, and we don't get really much airflow because we're sideways most of the time. So it's just machine management. Um, Obviously, great driver and a lot of luck is what takes you to the top.
You are no stranger to needing a lot of luck because for a while there you were really in a rough patch. Going transitioning from Ford, doing the threes racing and going Gretty, that insane motor setup that you had for a couple of years that quite possibly
Yeah.
I'm sure you wish you threw it in the San Francisco Bay. And then now where you're at now. What were some of the ways that you kept the determination and kept your head up? Because I know how frustrating it can be when you go all the way out to the East Coast, you're there behind the wheel, and then you're done for the weekend because of something that's completely out of your control.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks to spend so much time and money, but not just your time, but your crew's time and their, potential to make money back at home. You're taking that away from them by having them on the road with you. You spend all that and then you go out to the East Coast, you know, 35, 40 hours away, and a simple $5 part takes you out is the most frustrating thing ever. And it's not just because of that failure and the inability to run throughout the rest of the weekend, but you also let your sponsors down, right? These sponsors that invest all their time and money into you to represent their brand, and you can't do that because you're gone for the weekend. So you have really, a lot of weight really on your shoulders, and it's not just like the pressure to win, but also the pressure to keep those sponsors abroad for the next season and the events coming up. Um, it's hard, and the reason or the way I keep myself motivated past those occurrences is just to remember why I'm doing it in the first place, and it's because I love drifting. I love competing. I love the feeling of winning and being on the podium, spraying champagne on my crew. It's just, once you get a taste of winning, you just want more of it, and you'll do no matter what it takes to chase that feeling all over. And I think that's pretty much what keeps all of us going, at least the ones that are still in it today.
Well, 20 plus years as a professional driver is definitely an achievement no matter what the motorsport is. And being under 40 is also a pretty impressive achievement as well. What's maybe some of your own personal goals in, like, say, the next 3 to 5 years when it comes to maybe your opportunity to drive certain places, your program expectations? What do you want to see happen?
Well, I mean, so I love drifting so much that I don't want to go away from it. Obviously, I'm going up in age, getting really close to 40, actually 40 next year. So, with that said, I don't want to be the one old fart in Formula Drift taking away the opportunity from these young kids, looking for a chance to compete in Formula Drift. So, ultimately, I do want to take a step back. I wouldn't say anytime soon, but in the near future, I do want to take a step back and really give my opportunity to the next generation, get them in the seat and have them compete in my car or cars. So what I'm trying to say is, I guess I want to take a step back and become a team owner and operator without the driver part and let the driving be done by the next generation.
That's fantastic. Being able to give back to the sport while still being able to give all the experience and knowledge that you have as a driver. We're seeing more driver-owned programs, obviously, now that the sport's been stuff like that. Is that something maybe you see a couple of the other peers that have been in the sport as long as you maybe transitioning to, and we can start to see more? We got the Papadakis Racing, you've got Jerry Yang Racing, you've got RTR, Matt Field, obviously he's with that Borla, but still owning that parent company of Field with Heatwave. Is this something that maybe is the future of drifting?
I think so. I mean, the only way it's going to be sustainable is to have, a team owner operator building and maintaining the cars. And of course, when we first started, we didn't have any of that, right? We were the owners of the cars, we were the operators, and we had to figure out logistics to get our cars to the next venue. But now, or even throughout the years, we start to see owner operators. So guys like myself, Forsberg, like you said, RTR, Von Gittin, and Matt Field, we're all owner operators / drivers. So I operate and own my own team, and then I also drive for my own team. Eventually, these guys are going to get washed out, or like aged out, right? Like, we don't want to be the grandpas in drifting. So like you said, it's going to transition from owner operator / driver to just owner operator, and then hiring the young kids to drive for us. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the trend in professional drifting. We already see it. RTR is one of them. Who else is a former? Well, I guess just RTR now. Like, Forsberg's still driving for his own team, so I wouldn't count that
Right.
just owner operator. But he has, prospect drivers under his umbrella. We got Odie Bakchis,
Yep.
another owner operator with a multi-car team. So yeah, I think sometime in the near future, I'll take a step back and be doing the same thing, watching from the sidelines, or maybe who knows? Maybe I might be a spotter. Or I
Well,
might
look at
just
Justin
be
Pollock.
second
I mean, he
campaign.
came out and he's spotting now. He's pro driver.
Yeah. So all these guys that say they're going to retire and take a step away, like we see them coming back. Justin's one of them.
Denofa spotting. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But it's good though to keep that experience in the sport, and then, like you said, allow people to get the driving aspect under their belt to start, because without driving, you're not going to be able to understand how to spot. Without driving, you're not going to understand how to crew chief or how to
Right.
do logistics and stuff like that. So realistically, driver is the lowest man on the totem pole when it comes to
Yeah,
responsibilities. Show up,
Absolutely.
go, finish a lap, don't crash.
Yeah, they get the best job, right? Arrive and drive. They get all the spotlight. They get all the attention, all the money, and then fly home. But the owner
Well,
operators have to do everything.
And that's the other thing too, with NASCAR is one of them, to where there's still a couple people paying for their seat in NASCAR, but for the most part, it's a paid position. In Formula Drift, I think there's only like 4 people out of pro and pro spec that make a full-time salary as a driver. Everyone else, I mean, yourself included, you got a job. A lot of these drivers in pro have full-time jobs. Do you think that's something too that maybe we can transition to get some salaries for these drivers?
I mean, that's what we're hoping for. As team owners, we've always, voiced our concerns and the lack of big funding in the series, and just our last Formula Drift owners meeting, that was brought up, like how can we change things in Formula Drift to make the next big move so that instead of getting 6-figure contracts, we're seeing 7 figures or possibly,
Yeah.
multi 7-figure contracts. That's what we've been trying to figure out for years now. Like, how do we see the NASCAR style budget, or, like, what do we need to be doing to see that sort of increase in funding? I think once we see that, we can start seeing more paid drivers, more like professional teams. But yeah, till we see that budget change, it's going to be hard to see full-time paid drivers in any level of drifting, so pro spec or pro included. Like you said, there's only a handful of us that are getting like paid full-time just to drive for a living in pro. So hopefully we can see that change. Maybe more funding. I don't know, like maybe more commercials, commercialized sponsors. I don't know. I'm not a business major, so
Well, I guess what's good for the top is just going to trickle down. So you're going to see, like you said, Pro Spec is going to be able to get that next bump up. The Pro Am circuit is going to get something, and then obviously Grassroots is going to do its best to keep facilitating that next, class of drivers, we'll call it.
right.
And even supporters. I mean, FD selling out multiple rounds of pro competition on Saturdays is, I think, almost every event this year, Saturday has been sold out, which is huge.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, obviously, I haven't missed a single round of Formula Drift, so I've seen the waves, come and go. There were some events where like we had hoped more to come in. Texas Motor Speedway was one of the few that we were a little bit like, we wish more people came.
Right.
Palm Beach was one of those, but those venues were very limited to grandstand, I guess, viewing areas. So there weren't many areas where the spectators can watch. But a lot of the venues we attend now, it's very spectator friendly, and I think that's kind of what helped Formula Drift grow even bigger as a spectator sport. But it's not just the live audience that's huge in Formula Drift. The live stream viewership
Viewership,
has
yes, viewership, yeah.
viewership has like multiplied tremendously, and yeah, it's just crazy to see how many people across the globe has been watching us through live stream and supporting what we do.
I mean, again, being the sport's only just over 20-something years old, and there's multi-million people from across the globe checking in 8 times a year just to be able to see what you guys are doing on a Saturday in their own respective time zone, which is, again, when we saw each other in England or in Wall in 2006 with half a grandstand full, I don't think either of us would have saw where the sport is coming today, and still have no idea what's going to happen in the future. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
I agree. I mean, if you had asked me then, like what I see in 2025, this was 100 times bigger than what I could have even answered or imagined. And I think, the sport's going to continue to grow. We're going to see a lot more new talent, new faces, new opportunities. And hopefully one of those opportunities is having the chance to have full-time paid drivers for all teams.
Huge thing, and I don't think we're too far off. So as I start to wind things down, I like to be able to give my guests a chance to be able to give words of wisdom to either the grassroots driver that's just starting out or the guy that's in Pro-Am that's looking to make that jump to Pro Spec. What are some words of wisdom from your position that you would want to give to the drifting community?
What I always tell people is to never forget why you're there in the first place, right? Like, why are you doing it? A lot of people tend to get hung up on like, looking for more sponsors or like more power, trying to be the most competitive out there, but they forget why they're doing it. And the reason why we're doing it is because we love the sport, because it's so fun, right? So even if you're having a rough weekend, you break apart, you can't qualify, but you're with your friends, just remember your friends are there. You can still have fun. You can still watch your fellow competitors drive and still make it a great time and enjoy drifting for what it is, and just soak in the moment and like enjoy it. Like, enjoy sitting out in the sidelines and watching your competitors, because when there are lows in your life, there's always going to be highs and like great times out there. So just remember why you're doing it in the first place. And I think that goes for
Keep
both the beginners, the pro-am drivers, and also guys in our level, pro guys.
keep drifting fun. I think that seems to be
Yes.
the feeling across the board. So at this time, I'd love for you to plug anything you've got going, any of your sponsors, people like to thank, and then how can we find out more about what's going on with Ken Gushi on social media?
Well, first of all, thank you, Chris, for giving me the platform to talk and spread my wisdom and knowledge. You can always find me on what is it? Instagram, Facebook. I mean, I'm all on there. X, YouTube. If you just search Ken Gushi, one word, I'm everywhere to be found. You can keep up with me, especially through Instagram. I'm pretty active on Instagram. But otherwise, yeah, I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. I think I did enough plugging in of my sponsors while we were chatting. I did subtly just plug in some sponsors in there. So I don't think I need to really mention anyone. But yeah,
I'm sure they're very
thank
thankful
you.
for it. And then another thing is, I want to again thank you for being here. Shout out to your mom and dad for being awesome people in general. I still see your mom on
Thank you.
social media, and I like her stuff. She likes my stuff, but and your father. So for those of you that don't know, me and Ken, like I said, we keep talking about when we met. My father and I went to Wall Speedway in 2006 to watch a Formula Drift event there. That still, I guess, was the Gauntlet. But
Mhm.
Ken's dad was there when Ken was in the Ford Mustang. I think it was red back then. Yeah.
Red. Yep.
And we had worked with his manager at the time, and she was able to get a meet and greet going. And you have not changed in almost 20 years. And I want to thank you for just being a true, honest to goodness, good person, and still, keeping that through all these years. I know some people can let their heads get big with success, but dude, your parents raised a good dude, and again,
Thank
keep
you,
the
man.
sport
That means a
fun, man.
lot.
Seriously. So that being said, I am Chris DeBoard. You can find me on Instagram at Debo the Comic. Also, I am on Facebook, Chris DeBoard, and the Dirt Drop is now on every platform. So you can find us obviously on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. The Dirt Drop. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks again to my guest Ken, and we will see you on the next Dirt Drop.
Thanks, Chris.
And that's it. We're done.
Nice. I can't believe how
All
fast.
right.